Well, we just watched Hillary Clinton fielding a series of questions on her campaign plane. This is a relatively new thing that she's doing, and so we wanted to play that for you, our viewers, as she hasn't held an official news conference. Some of the questions that she fielded were regarding her email. Let's bring in now David Avella, the chairman of GOPAC and a Republican strategist, and Robert Wolf, the CEO of 32 Advisors, former economic advisor to President Obama and Hillary Clinton supporter. It's nice to have you both. I'm glad to see you're in different cities because you're taking each other on Twitter already, which I appreciate. It's friendly. It's all friendly.
It's all friendly. We're both Americans first.
That's right. Bob, let me ask you about what we just saw, because certainly some of the journalists, and I know it was challenging for us to listen to all the questions and the sound in the plane, but they were asking about the emails. And the question that arises in the Wall Street Journal and other places today, is this constant drumbeat about the emails hurting Hillary Clinton, or is it already baked in? How do you see it?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you, Bob.
Okay, great. Thank you. Listen, maybe it's my background being a trader, but to me, I buy and sell things, and once the decision's made, it's made. Once Director Comey made a decision that there's no indictment, to me, you know, you move forward. And those who think the email's an issue will keep it an issue, and those who don't will move on. I think that, for the most part, people have moved on. I know it's good for the media to discuss it, but the election's going to be won and lost on the economy and on foreign policy. It's not going to be based on Trump University. It's not going to be based on his payment to the Attorney General. It's going to be based on who's better for the economy and who's better on foreign policy. So, yes, I think it's newsworthy, but I don't think it will make a difference in the election over the next 60 days. David,
we're seeing some new attacks, though. Mike Pence also today speaking. I'm just going to paraphrase what he had to say about Hillary Clinton, calling this basically the Watergate. We saw that in the USA Today op-ed piece as well, making references to her as being like Richard Nixon. Do you think those attacks are effective, or do you think, like Robert's saying, you know, at this point, those that wanted an opinion on this already have one?
No, the comparisons to Watergate don't have as much impact as those who are delivering the lines might hope, because the folks who are still undecided in this election are younger voters who, many of them, may not know the facts of Watergate. Here's why, though, this email controversy is a problem for Hillary Clinton. It potentially suppresses her turnout. That people who are undecided or lukewarm about her all say the same thing, that voters who don't like her, she's a liar and she's a crook. And if you go into this election thinking, I don't want to vote for Donald Trump, but I think she's a liar and a crook, maybe I'm just going to stay home. Those voters are the ones she needs to actually turn out to make sure she gets the votes she needs to win. If they think those negative things about her, they may not turn out. Hence, and you see it, let me just make one last point, Jenna, which is reflected in the polls that are now coming out, where now you see today a poll came out that actually has Trump up by 2 points.
Okay, but let me ask you about that,
it's not because his numbers have gone up.
A previous panel that we had on just a few minutes ago on our program pointed out, both of our guests pointed out, that yes, you are seeing Hillary Clinton's numbers decline, but you're not seeing Trump gaining more in those polls. He just looks better because she's dropping. Does that concern you, David, about that? Let me ask David about that, as someone that's supporting the Republicans. What about that?
Turnout is what matters, and if Clinton supporters don't turn out, which you could be seeing reflected in these current polls here, it is a problem for her. Look, Republicans want to get back into the White House. Those who want to get back in the White House are highly motivated to make sure we don't have a third term of Barack Obama. And the party outside of power is always more motivated to go vote in an election. So that's why she has to keep her people motivated.
Let's ask Robert about this. Robert, there was a professor that was quoted today in the Wall Street Journal talking about the impact for the very voters that David is mentioning, these young voters, how to get them out. And the political science professor had this to say: technologically, she, meaning Hillary Clinton, doesn't seem on top of it. And to them, that suggests you're not competent in today's workforce. So she's saying it doesn't really have to do with the content of the emails. It just looks like perhaps she doesn't really know enough about technology. That could hurt her with younger voters. What do you think about that?
Well, I want to respond. You've been throwing a bunch of stuff. This is like throwing stuff into the kitchen sink. So let me respond first to a third term of Obama. As we all know, everyone praises Reagan in this country, especially the Republican Party. It's interesting that President Obama's polling is higher than the Reagan at the same point in their second term.
So you're saying that'll help turnout?
So there's no question when Obama's out there, he's the most popular guy in the country by a long shot, and the polling show it, both with independents and Democrats. Secondly, yes, get out the vote's important, but what counts is the electoral map. Okay, we have heard this many, many times. Obama won clean sweep in the electoral map in 04. I think he won 10 or 11 out of 12 in 08. If you look at the electoral map today, okay, if we're talking about polling, the secretary's winning a majority of them. And we should also be clear about the percentage of popular vote. President Clinton was at 43% and had 365 electoral votes. You only need 270. And so, yes, the popular vote matters, but Gore actually beat Bush on the popular vote. But what matters is the electoral map. And today there is no one saying, okay, that the secretary does not look better on the electoral map.
Absolutely. We've actually been reporting that. And, David, that's another question that we've been asking today as well. Sure, the national poll looks better. When you look at these battleground states, you still see that Hillary Clinton is ahead in almost all of them. How does Trump deal with that? If it is about turnout, how does he get the turnout that helps him tighten that gap?
In those polls, you also see the gap closing between the two. And state polls often lag behind the national polls. And as the national polls continue to show a closer and closer race, you're going to see the state polls. And that's actually, to Bob's point, how you win the Electoral College. You win state by state, which means turnout matters. Who comes to vote actually matters. And let's keep in mind, no third-term Democrat has occurred since before World War II. Hillary Clinton has quite a challenge in that we don't typically give Democrats a third term.
Unless you think they're doing a good job. I should just mention
which we haven't had. Bob, when is the last time that's happened? Bob, that hasn't happened in over a century. Democrats haven't had a...
That's what people say. We're in historic times, so they want to be like, okay, let's wrap up the segment. No, anything could happen. David, Robert, great to have you both. Thank you very much.